Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Adaptive BBS, the 10-second observation webinar. I'm Drew Prohaska. I'm the marketing manager here at DEKRA Management Systems, and I'm just going to cover a few things briefly before we kick off the webinar here. So first of all, everyone has automatically been muted to avoid any background noise or interruptions during the webinar. So if you have any questions for our presenter, you're going to type those into the question tab that is found in the bottom portion of your control panel. So if you've got any questions, type them in there, and then we will have a designated time at the end of the webinar where we'll cover those questions and we can answer those for you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our Managing Director, Tim Boyer.
Good afternoon, everybody. And first, I want to thank you all for taking time to take a look at our Adaptive BBS product. This is a new product that we're rolling out. We're really excited about it. We'll kind of get right into why we have a new product and then some of the issues that we were trying to solve or some of the things we're trying to help our clients with. So Adaptive BBS platform, it's really here to eliminate some of the struggles we see with people that have some stagnant BBS processes and frequent communication failures in their systems. So Adaptive is built to support multiple feedback channels, and it's really focuses on trying to increase employee engagement in the system. So people that establish a BBS program put a lot of time and effort into startup. What we're really trying to do is help make sure that their system's still effective and working 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line. So we think it can really help revitalize current programs, and it's a great place to start for anybody that's establishing new systems. So why do we do this? Why Adaptive BBS? One thing that we really wanted to focus on is just a way to have observations happen quicker. So I think you'll see from the design up, we looked at how can you do a 10-second observation. And not only that, but how can you do a 10-second observation and increase the data quality? So we put a lot of thought into the processes of making it fast, making it easy to use, and then making sure that you have good data. The other thing we wanted to look at is we wanted to be able to support and improve any behavior-based safety methodology that our clients or anybody may be using. So we didn't want to just put our spin on it and make you change processes. So we can out of the box support any process you're using, but bring value to it with some of the new technology. And the other thing we're really trying to do is provide insights and not just reports. So when you look at your average steering committee, we're asking a lot out of people to become almost data scientists to be able to get to the insights they need. So we really took a look at what are all these systems trying to accomplish and how can we help getting the people right to actionable data. I'm going to kind of quickly cover some technology features just to maybe answer some questions that may come up. One thing about Adaptive is this is a cloud-based product built from the ground up. So, everything is set up to work with the modern infrastructure, the technology that it's out here. So it's automatically updated. We have a partnership with Amazon Web Service that gives us a really reliable backbone and a lot of options in how we can work with our clients and their data. We used a lot of new technology. It's all the new latest, greatest. But the other thing that we did is we tied in a lot of machine learning algorithms. We're using some natural language processing, and the entire system's open API. So you can tie it into the other systems that you're using. We're trying to make sure this data stays accessible. We have baked-in security. Our development processes are ISO 27001 certified, so we think security from the ground up. And kind of a new one for us is data portability. So if you decide to go with us and you have multiple locations, international locations, you can choose where you want to host your data. So on the front end, if the data needs to be out of the U.S., it can be there. If it needs to be in a government FedRAMP, it can be there. So you have a lot of options on how you want to store your data. So with that, I will get started with the actual demo. So Anybody that's used our products in the past will see an immediate change. What we're trying to do is put the data that you need in front of you right away. So this is the dashboard that would expose all the data. You can tell right away we're supporting multiple methodologies, but the important stuff is just baked into the system. So we can deliver instantly what your review rate is. You know, as a steering committee, do you have a group of people that are actually reviewing the data that's put in? We support tracking coaching rate. So, you know, if you're out there and you're trying to figure out not only, you know, are you coaching your observers, but who do you need to coach, we can track that, and we'll talk about some of our data. One of the big things is observation quality. This is an area that if you want to look at why systems fail over time, you know, what can happen in any behavioral system, especially if you start with a paper-based, everybody's really excited on the front end. You have a group come in, you train your people, you're engaged, your observers go out, they start doing observations, and I don't know how many times we've heard a year later somebody's got 40,000 observations sitting in a box. You're disengaging your observers, right? We spend a lot of time worrying about the feedback that they provide to the people that are observing, but what about feedback to the observer? So we've actually tied in a lot of ways that we can use, and with a bit of gamification, that we're trying to help drive observer quality. So a steering committee reviewer, they can actually provide feedback to the person doing the observation, and we'll show how we can deliver that. This particular company we're looking at doesn't have observation goals. You know, if you had your goals in the system, this would track, you know, if you want 2 observations per employee, we can show it by organization, overall company, are you achieving your goals? And then, you know, the standard contact rate. So what % of the population is being observed, participation rate, what % of your observers that are trained to observe are actually doing them. And a new thing that we've added, I think, you know, a lot of people are discussing SIFs, right? Severe injury fatalities or high risk behaviors. We've actually made it easy to track that. So you can actually set up certain behaviors, exposures in your system that you want to track individually. And instead of having to dig through a lot of extra paperwork, a lot of extra things, you flag them and then they instantly come up. So you know what these high risk things are. You can go straight to the comments. You can see what kind of feedback they're getting. So again, it's just a overall way of trying to make it more visible. And then just overall % safe, where's your company at? Other things on the dashboard that we're tracking, a lot of it is feedback, is just what are your top 5 at-risk exposures? So we have a chart, you can go right to it, you can click down and you're looking instantly at the data, you're looking at the observer's comments. You can quickly pull out if there's barriers. We have an embedded action item system, so you can ad hoc add action items if you see something, but we can also set up the system that if somebody marks an exposure behavior at risk or as a barrier, it will automatically prompt them to enter the details for action items. So this screen, it gives you a way to track, hey, we're finding them, or are we fixing them? And then we're also looking a lot with observer feedback provided. So what kind of feedback are your observers giving to the staff or the employees that they're observing? So we've got kind of a unique way that we're looking at this, and we'll go further into it. But almost all behavior-based safety systems are based on positive reinforcement, right? So if you're wanting to change behaviors, you need to find out, why people are doing the risky behaviors, and then reinforce the positive behaviors they can be doing. So we actually have a dashboard that you can track this and see if you're given the right kind of feedback that you're expecting. The other things we have in the dashboard is just things over time, right? It's kind of interesting to see which way you're trending. So, overall, are we trending towards safe? Are we trending towards at risk or unsafe? And then we can track kind of the ebbs and flows of the observations that come into the system. Are you trending up? Are you trending down? The reason a lot of systems failed, and we in the last year spent a lot of time looking at this, is people don't find these things out until a year later or 3 months later. It's a little hard to turn it. But if you can look at your data instantly and measure, what's happening, then you can get in front of a lot of the problems that cause programs to stagnate. So with that, kind of want to talk a little bit about the 10-second observation, right, where we put our focus. So you can see as you come into this that one thing the system does is support multiple locations, multiple checklists, multiple observers. We have a way that we can tie that data together. But so many systems where we see paper-based systems, you have to go through and have somebody put down what department were they in, or what shift are they in. And it's amazing how many times it just doesn't get answered. So you end up missing really critical data. So if you already know that an employee is assigned to a shipping department or maintenance or a first shift, why would you ask that question again, right? So when you're doing data analytics, if you make it hard, they don't do it. So we tie all this together on the front side. So when an observer is doing an observation, say the product is mobile responsive. So if I was doing this on an iPad and had connectivity, this data's there. You don't have to answer it again. And having it already answered means you have richer data to be able to do analytics on in the background. Other things that we've tied in is just for data input, you can assign employees to areas. So if you're really trying to drill down on, what area were they in, what's their department, what shift, the ultimate answer everybody's trying to get to is what's my most unsafe activity or area. And we can do that, and we'll show you some of the reports that we help with. Something that we're adding that I've really not seen before is intelligent tagging, task tagging. So again, a lot of people on observations don't put in what the employee was doing. So you can never get to the point of, what were they doing that was at risk, or, where are we sitting in these tasks? So we have an intelligent tagging system. So if the employee is using a forklift safety checklist, you can assign certain tags, a task they were doing. That really lets you drill down and find these at-risk activities. So, and it also speeds up data entry. They don't have to sit and fill out a long string of text. They can just pick from it. The other thing we've done to speed it up is if an employee has ever filled something out before, we bring it back. So if that employee, whether you're on a mobile device, whether you're typing in an observation, you don't have to always rethink adding this text in. It remembers what you were doing. Coaching, if you set up people in your organization as coaches, their names automatically appear, really easy just to drop it in. And then what we do is just try to make it very safe to come in and hit the buttons, fill out what you're doing. We've set it up, you don't have to trip over NAs. You just, I think we figured out last year, we've got millions of observations in our database that, by having an NA button people have to choose, we were forcing them to about 12 million additional button clicks that didn't need to be made. So we really mined all of our own data to make sure that we can be as efficient as possible. So, when an observer comes in, they fill out their checklist, they can talk about providing feedback, told the operator, great job, or you can get as specific as you want. Appreciative feedback, well received. So the minute the observer adds this observation, it sets up in a ready to review state. So we have a list of observations. Your reviewers can have a filterable list that they know what they need to do by their departments, whatever the organization they're assigned to. So what we're really focused on is let's give this guy some feedback. Was he giving you the data that you wanted? Were you able to, be able to, help the guy improve? So let's say, great job, need more specific, pardon my typing. So, 4 out of 5. What we're doing is we're doing some gamification. I mean, if you set the system up right, you can make this decision on what's good and what's bad. The thing is, you need to communicate it back to this employee. So me as the reviewer, I can mark this as reviewed, update the observation. But again, one of the things that we see that really fails in systems and why people start pencil whipping is that observer doesn't get the feedback to them. So what we've done is we've actually added a dashboard for the individual observer. So now when I log in as an observer, I see what my star rankings are. I see what feedback that the reviewer has given to me. You can drive the system quality so much better. If it's not a good observation, don't give them 5 and tell them what it is to improve. The gamification side says when I log in, I want to be a 5, I don't want to be a 3. So you put the work on the front side, you're going to continue to have quality observations. You're not going to run into the pencil whipping when people just throw their hands up and start looking at the easy things because nobody provides feedback to them. The other thing in their dashboard would be any action item that may be assigned to that observer, or if you're a manager, any action items you may have assigned to somebody else. So we have an easy way for them to get to this data, manage their quality, manage their action items. Sorry, as I take a drink. The other thing we're doing is using stats and machine learning. So you know what? People don't always see the same things. So we can explain to a person, here's an observer. We can look at what it is that they're seeing, but we can also compare them to their group. So, you know, I have a star ranking of 5. My shift department organization average is 5, so I'm no better, no worse. I've done 7 observations. The average for the group is 14. You know, some of the more interesting things we're doing is what am I looking at? So when I fill out my checklist, over this course of time, I've looked at 18 unique exposures or behaviors. The group's looking at a few more, 23. Should I be looking at something different? So right now we're showing the data. Eventually our goal is to throw machine learning at this and then put suggestions in. So maybe as an observer, when I log in and I see that, you know, I'm always 100% safe and my group is, you know, maybe at 95% safe, I need to adjust what I'm looking at. And we can now, with all the new technology available to us, write those suggestions. So should they be looking for more risks? Are they always 100% safe, but the group is seeing, you know, other top 5 at risk? So it's just another way that we're trying to communicate this to people. Clean sheets. Are they marking everything 100% safe all the time? And the group is more like 65%. So we're building these comparisons in to help them make better choices and trying to nudge them into doing better observations. Again, if I would have had the goal set for my group, then my goals status would show up here, try to prompt people into it. And then in most systems, you know, you end up with one feedback channel, especially with paper. So maybe the steering committee will run a monthly report showing top 5 at risk, throw it up on a bulletin board. Do the employees see it? So what we're doing is sharing that information here. So we've already got multiple feedback channels to the employee, where in the past, the only thing they may have seen is a chart of our top 5 at risk. So it's really all about communication. So I think we've kind of covered, you know, how we're trying to get to this 10-second observation and how it leads to better data. Again, don't make them put information in that's not required, right? That's the quickest way. And then get richer data by making sure that the stuff is pre-filled out when you can. So I think I'm going to jump into the reporting side of this because, you know, all this information is good unless you're running reports. So, you know, you've got to be able to get to it to make change. Apologize. So one of the biggest things that we're doing is trying to get to the exposure statistics as quick as possible. So again, if you have all this data and you have to go digging for it, it really makes it hard to make actionable change. So what we do is you can actually come in, instantly filter by your most at-risk behaviors. I want to change my date frame. I should have did that. Just a second. Do a little longer period. So, you know, where's your risk at? So if I come in here, filter again on my top at risks, you know, I can see that I have a problem with proper lifting techniques. So what's my problems? I can actually come in and hit those 20 at risk, and if you see what's filtered, we automatically go to the comments, and I'll apologize, I have some test data in here, but you really don't have to go digging. Was he wearing the appropriate PPE? Was marked as safe? Wasn't wearing a mask? Why weren't they wearing a mask? So again, actionable information comes straight to your hands. You don't have to go looking for it. Some of the other things that we've added is the ability to run some of this data with geolocation. So if you're managing multiple spots, I'm going to change my date frame again to get some usable data. Oh, sorry about that. Hit wrong buttons. So if you have multiple locations, it'll actually come in and give you a quick comparison, so you don't have to go digging for the information that you need. So we're really, again, just trying to put this information in your guys' hands. So if you need a comparison, you want to see the stats, you want to see top 5 at risk, is it different from location to location? The data's in your hand. We also have roles built in, so you can pick and choose exactly what employees see. So if you're a corporate user, you'd be able to see this. If you're a location, you'd only see your location. And if you have somebody that you want to, maybe is only on an observer level, you want to extend what they can do, it's easy to go in, check a box, and give them access to additional information. Some of the other higher level things that we've been working on in reporting, we spend a lot of time thinking about feedback. So where we're using a lot of new machine learning is we can actually come in and do sentiment analysis. So what we're doing is, everybody, if I ask somebody in your system, are you giving positive reinforcement, they say yes. We actually have a machine learning algorithm. We can take those comments from the observer, we can take the comments from the reviewer, and we can tell you exactly what are you doing. So it's amazing how many people think that they're giving all positive feedback, and we find out that they're mainly giving neutral feedback. So we take the comment and, an idea of, neutral feedback would be, I saw somebody doing something unsafe, and that's it. Positive would be, hey, I saw this person doing something at risk. We covered the 3 things they were doing right. We talked and we had a coaching moment. We can actually measure what percent's going. And we've been able to use this one and see some actual changes on implementations on reviewers where maybe we were going a little too for the front side. You know what's going on. You know if your system's changing and you can stay in front of it. Another thing that we're doing is if you want a quick overview of the type of feedback that you're giving, then again, we use this one in our, through the natural language processing, is pull out the keywords and build word clouds. So in this case, you can see the reviewers are telling them great job, great observation. You can also pick out certain problems, if they're not wearing proper PPE and pull other areas. So it's just another way to get a hold of your data and take a look at it with a different set of eyes. What are your people saying to the people that they're observing? I think some of the other things that we have that's really interesting is we hear a lot of comments about what's the manager saying? What are they seeing compared to the frontline workers? We actually have positions, so you can come in and compare the data. So what are my managers? How many observations are they doing? Are they seeing safes differently than what the observers and the frontline supervisors are? So you guys can break down and you can start running the analytics to see if you have a problem at a management level, to see if you have a problem, a disconnect between frontline supervisors, people doing it. And then you can also flip around and look at it by the roles. So what are our coaches saying? What are they seeing compared to the people that are actually doing the observations? And we put all this information at your hands. You don't have to go digging for it. So again, we're trying to take all these millions of records that you guys are collecting and give you actionable information. Something that we did totally different on this go around is we have a lot of people asking for ad hoc reporting. We know that a lot of our clients are having to take data and throw it into pivot tables. So we actually built a pivot table into the system. So it's your data. What we do is we can kind of cube it out based on the details of the information you want. And you can look at your data any way you want, slice and dice by comments, by tasks. So in this case, I took our task tags and I'm actually able to say, hey, show me, what my most at-risk activity is. And from there, you can actually come in and just drill down further. Show me the comments on those. So we've got a way that you can look at the data any way you want to. You don't have to just rely on the reports that we put together. So we've built out the reports that we think are appropriate, but then we give you the ability to go even further and take a look at your data. And if you find a report you like, you can query it out. You can come in, you can build charts on it if you want to, and then save it, and you can share it with other people. So again, you have the ability to come in and do your own analytics on top of what we're already bringing you. One of the biggest things, I think, is being able to come through and dig into the comments, right? So what are people saying, but how do you get there? So we have a really robust filter and queries. So you can come in and you can actually say, look, I want to know, about ladders. You can run a filter on it, save your filter so you can come back. But then what we're doing is, we're giving you, at any at-risk, any way you want to filter this data, we're just taking you right into the data, into the comments that people have. The comments are where the insight is, right? That's where you're going to find out your problems. You don't have to go hunt and peck in the system. You can come in, you can look for coaching, you can look for at-risks, you can look by exposure, you can look by area. All that data is exposed to you. So, I think what we've done is we've come up with a really decent way to make it easy to get data, focus on what you want to do. Everything's configurable. You can put in your at-risk, your exposures, build out a single checklist, build out multiple checklists, assign checklist to organizations. You can get this thing tweaked to exactly what you need to do. We have built-in communications. So, if you want to set it up that you receive an alert, if somebody enters even an at-risk exposure, the system will email you. It will show up in our system when you log in. So we have multiple communication channels. And then, the action items, we talked about it, they can be created from an observation, or you can just add one. So you have an action item list. So if you want to come in and take a look at an action item that might have been dropped in from an exposure, it's going to show you, we found out that a ladder's broken. Somebody needs to replace the ladder, right? You can tie it back to the behavior. You can see where your problems are at. If you assign it to a person, they're going to get a notification they need to close it. And if you want to expose it, we've also tied in hierarchies of control. So we can actually make sure these action items are effective. You can turn this on or off if you want to. We've also tied in SIFs. What's the severity? So we have a lot of people wanting to track them. So we have a new layer where you can add this to your action items and make sure you're removing the things that are important. So I kind of stayed at a very high level. If anybody has any more information they'd like to have, I'll share some contact information. But I think, Drew, it might be a good point now if we have any questions that you want to address.
It looks like we don't currently have any questions right now. So if anybody, we'll give you a minute here. If anybody has any questions for Tim, type those into the question pane, and I'll read those out loud to Tim here. Looks like
and one of my people that are with me kind of brought one of our real big machine learning things that I forgot to throw out is we see a lot of systems where, people will look at something that's 85% safe for years and never change it. So one of the things that we have done is, you can actually come in and look at your exposures over time, and then we're putting analytics and trend line analytics. So, we can tell you ahead of time, is it getting safer? Is it getting more at risk? Again, we ask a lot out of steering committees, individual employees that may not be data scientists, right? So in our system, we require a minimum of 5 points that we can do data on, but we'll start building out the polynomial trend lines for you. So it doesn't take a whole lot to be able to come down and look for things that are trending down. Is something trending more at risk? Then you dig into the reasons. Or are we making improvements? Is it trending up? So, yeah, this is another area where we're using algorithms to help show you guys where your systems are heading. So it's not a surprise, right? You can stay on top of it.
All right, we do have a couple questions rolling in here.
Sure.
So we'll get to a couple of these. What does adaptive stand for?
Adaptive is really what we built this platform out to be. So we wanted to be able to adapt to clients' needs, right? So we didn't want to tell you how to do BBS if you've already got an existing program, but we wanted to build a system that would adapt to the way you're doing things and help you improve it. So really what we're trying to do is, on Adaptive, is we're trying to make it work for our clients.
Awesome, thanks. Do you have to have Wi-Fi, or can you do an observation in the field and have it upload when you get back within Wi-Fi?
Okay, currently the system that you're looking at now requires that you're logged in, and it's mobile responsive. You can run it on a cell phone with connectivity. We do have in development offline capabilities. We should have that out probably at the latest mid-February. So it's in beta, we're testing it. But we wanted to get this one out first because the majority of our observations happen where people are connected.
Okay, great. Can I set up a live in-depth demo for my company?
Yes, and I'll give you the contact information. Yeah, we have the last slide will show up that I think will be very helpful. So yeah, we're here to help. We're here to do what we can. So, you know, here's some contact information if you want to reach out to Lindsay. Yes, yeah, we can, more than happy to go more in depth and make sure that we're answering your guys' questions. We want to make sure it works for you, so I would highly suggest that.
Fantastic, and I'll touch on that a little bit too as well. After this demo is over, we will be sending out a follow-up email that will have that contact information in it. So any questions you have after this webinar, you'll have that contact information after we reach out, and we'll send you that in email. There's a couple more questions here we'll go through. Are you able to give permissions to different individuals to view specific reports? And are there different provisions on what people can see?
And I went over that one pretty quick. So what you can do, and I'll jump in real quick, you can set up to make data entry a little easier. So you can actually pre-set up roles in the organization. Sorry, I'm going to get something out of the way here. So you can, by default, set up observers and reviewers and coaches, and you can assign roles to those, or excuse me, you can assign certain activities to those. So the permission side of it is very granular. But let's say that an admin has everything. That if you want to have an observer that only have access to one location, but you want them to see a specific report, you can go to that person and you can extend their permissions. So it's very, very configurable. You can drill down exactly what you want that person to see or do.
Great. If I have 300 employees and want to have an observation completed with all employees in a time frame, is there any way to track that?
We do. So we have a goal set up, and the organization that I was using, and I should have checked my demo a little quicker, doesn't have one set up. But on the reporting side, you can come in, or excuse me, the administration side, you can come in and actually build out the goals kind of any way that you'd like to. So in this case, I'm going to set one up, but I just didn't have it established. That I want, all observers, anybody in a certain role, to do X amount of observations per month. And it will run the reports for you, and it'll show up on the dashboard, and it also shows up on the user's dashboard.
Great, thanks, Tim. Can you export reports?
Yes. Almost any report that we have, if you come through, sorry, let me close that. So let's say if we look at our comment report, you'll just see that we have built-in Excel. Sorry? Yeah, sorry, so to speak. Yeah, you can offload everything to Excel on any of the reports.
Fantastic. What is coaching in your system?
So in our system, coaching is a highly trained observer. So this would be an individual that actually would go out and train other observers. So I know some systems coaching is when you provide feedback to who you're observing. But in our system, a coach is generally a higher trained observer that can actually go out and do co-observations with employees and make sure they're doing things right? And the other thing we do is we actually have coaching reports. So we've seen a lot of systems where people really don't know who they should be coaching. We actually suggest. So we have, we set it up that you can come in and a coach can run a report in his group. And what they look for is we look for, if somebody's never been coached, if they've never done an observation, you need to go coach them, right? Or, if they've not been coached in 2 years, or if they've got a low star ranking. So you can actually come and filter and look for employees that might need that additional help, right? To have support of having somebody out to help coach them through an observation.
Awesome. We got a couple more questions here. Are task tags general for all sites or set for your site?
They can be both. So it's really configurable in this system. So what you can do is actually task tags are assigned to a checklist. So you can set up a checklist to go to a single site and then assign the task tags to go with that location. So you can do both ways.
All right, perfect. Will this be at the Safety in Action conference?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to have a booth set up, and I won't go into the specifics now since we're kind of a separate company from our sister company, but we will be there. We'll have a booth and be ready to talk to people.
Fantastic. And this might be something we maybe address on a more individual level, but there's a question about is this replacing Rincon?
Yeah, and we can do that with later. So what I can tell you, and that would go with the SI8. The people in OSR, so our partners, that the former BST people, have decided that they want to use this system to eventually replace installed Rincon when it's no longer supported.
Fantastic. Well, that is all the questions we have right now. So if you have any further questions after this, something you're thinking about after the webinar comes up, we will be reaching out. We'll be sending out a follow-up email to this, and it will have all of our contact information in that. I want to thank Tim for doing this webinar for us today, as well as all of you for taking the time to be with us. So that kind of wraps up our presentation for the day, and we'll be glad to hear from you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.